Hey gang, and welcome back. Just a reminder, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com. You'll get 10% off orders over $10 and help with the channel at the same time. Additionally, Flipside Gaming is going to be giving away a box of Battle Bond to celebrate my 20,000 subscribers. For entry, all you have to do is use the promo code MTGMudsta on any order over $10 and you'll be entered to win. You can do multiple entries for each time you use the promo code. The time frame for this giveaway is between June 1st and June 30th, with the drawing happening in July. Today finds us back in Montreal, and I've borrowed Fred 2's Ghalta deck, keeping a hand with 3 Forests, Dryad Arbor, Sylvan Awakening, Eternal Witness, and Hydra Broodmaster. Eric has assembled a Kalemne deck, and is keeping a hand with Elesh Norn, Hamletback Goliath, Palisade Giant, Plains, Ancient Amphitheater, Plateau, and Cold Steel Heart. Brian is borrowing Eric's Azusa deck and keeps a hand with 5 Forests, Sol Ring, and a Blightsteel Colossus. Lastly, Jameson is taking his Sen Triplets out again and keeps a hand with Darksteel Forge, Mind's Dilation, Vedalken Archmage, Darksteel Ingot, Land Tax, Isolated Chapel, and Hallowed Fountain. Eric wins the die roll and starts us off. Eric plays an Ancient Amphitheater tapped, choosing not to reveal Giant from his hand. Brian plays a Forest and casts a Sol Ring. Jameson plays a Hallowed Fountain, taking 2, and taps it for white to cast Land Tax. I play a Dryad Arbor and pass my turn. Eric plays a Plateau and casts Cold Steel Heart, naming red when it enters. Brian plays a Forest and casts Azusa. He then drops 2 more Forests and pays 3 to cast Far Wanderings. Jameson uses his Land Tax trigger on his upkeep and grabs 1 of each basic. He then plays an Isolated Chapel in his main phase and discards a Plains at the end of his turn. I play a Forest, and I pass. Eric plays a Plains and casts Kalemne, passing to Brian. Brian plays 3 Forests on his turn, counts up his land, and swings Azusa at Jameson for 1. Jameson finds some more basics on his upkeep with Land Tax, and he plays an Island in his main phase. He then casts a Darksteel Ingot, and passes turn. I play a Forest for my turn, and I cast Lifecrafter's Bestiary, passing to Eric once it's done. Eric plays a Mountain, and moves to combat. He swings Kalemne at Brian, getting in for 6 commander damage, and passing turn. Brian plays a Forest, and counts up his lands again, but passes. Jameson uses his Land Tax trigger again, because I think it's safe to say Brian has definitely more lands than he does. Jameson plays a Swamp, and he casts a Vedalken Archmage in his main phase. Moving to his end step, Jameson dumps some basics, and passes. I scry on my upkeep, keeping the top card there, and draw Forest, playing it for my turn. I then pass to Eric. Eric plays a Scalding Tarn, and taps out, cracking his Tarn to find a Sacred Foundry, taking 3 total to cast an Adakar Valkyrie. This gives Kalemne an experience counter. Moving to combat, Eric swings Kalemne at Brian, who puts Azusa in front of the Giant and takes no damage. For his turn, Brian recasts Azusa and brings out a companion in the form of Heartwood Storyteller. We see Land Tax go off again on Jameson's upkeep, and he grabs 3 more basics, thinning his deck and leaving him pure gas for his draws. He plays a Sunken Hollow as his land for turn, and then casts the Sen Triplets before passing to me. He's supposed to draw from the Archmage, but unfortunately forgets. He also has to discard as we move to my turn. I scry on my turn, and I bottom the card. I play a Forest and cast Nissa Vital Force, which lets my opponents draw from the Storyteller trigger. I then uptick Nissa, animating the already living Dryad Arbor, and I pass my turn. Eric plays a Fellwar Stone, which lets all of his opponents draw a card from the Storyteller. Moving to combat, the Angel comes at Nissa while Kalemne swings at Brian, who blocks it with his Storyteller. With nothing else, Eric passes to Brian. Brian draws and plays a Forest for his turn and counts up his mana, tapping it all to cast a Blightsteel Colossus. Jameson stacks his triggers, resolving the Land Tax before the Sen Triplets. He finds his basics, and Eric reveals his hand. Interestingly enough, Jameson doesn't go for Elesh Norn, and instead casts a Mycosynth Lattice from his own hand. He then casts Eric's Path to Exile on the Blightsteel Colossus, and Brian gets to go find a basic. Jameson then remembers to draw from the Archmage trigger, and he plays a Chrome Mox, exiling Mind's Dilation. For my turn, I scry, and I draw and play a Forest in my main phase, and I cast Fyndhorn Elves, paying 1 green to draw another land. I then uptick Nissa to untap a Forest, and I pass. Eric plays a Plains and pays 7 to cast Elesh Norn. He gains another experience counter, and a lot of things die to Elesh Norn's static ability. Moving to combat, Eric swings a Valkyrie to kill my Nissa, and hits Brian again with Kalemne. Brian casts a Concordant Crossroads in his main phase, and taps all but one of his lands to pay for Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre. He uses the on-cast trigger to destroy Kalemne, but Eric has to go to the graveyard and taps the Valkyrie to shortcut bringing it back immediately. Brian then moves to combat and swings Ulamog at Eric. Eric sacrifices 4 of his permanents and then takes 8 damage. For Jameson's turn, we see the land tax trigger go off again, and he just keeps grabbing some basics, and then resolves the Sen Triplets trigger, targeting me. I reveal my hand, and Jameson drops a basic. Eric suggests Jameson go for the Sylvan Awakening, but Jameson isn't buying it. He once again casts a spell from his own hand, and a Consecrated Sphinx hits the field. Jameson then casts my Eternal Witness, which comes into play and dies immediately. He still gets the Enter the Battlefield trigger, and returns his Vidalcan Archmage to his hand. I scry for my turn, and am becoming increasingly certain that Fred's Ghalta deck is mainly just forests, and he's trolling me. I scry the card to the bottom, and I play a forest in my main phase. I then cast my Hydra Broodmaster, but with Elesh Norn out, she's feeling a bit under the weather as a 5/5. Eric's turn has him draw, and Jameson draws 2. Eric then moves to combat and swings Kalemne at Brian, killing him, and Elesh Norn at Jameson for 4. With nothing else, Eric passes turn. Jameson is sad that he can't use his land tax trigger this turn, so he puts the Sen Triplets target on Eric. Jameson plays an island in his main phase, and Eric is pretty sad when Jameson steals his Avacyn, Angel of Hope. Jameson then casts a pair of Lightning Greaves and moves them onto Avacyn. Moving to combat, the Sphinx and Avacyn hit Eric for 8. I draw another forest for my turn, and I pass. Eric draws for a turn, but Jameson misses the draw trigger. Eric then swings both of his creatures at Jameson, and Kalemne is stopped while Jameson lets Elesh Norn's 4 damage go through. Jameson targets Eric once more, and continues the threat of being able to use the cards that Eric can't. Jameson plays a swamp in his main phase, and begins to eye the Platinum Angel. He casts it, and moves the Greaves onto it. Moving to combat, Jameson swings the Sphinx, Avacyn, and the Angel at me for 10. I scry another forest to the bottom, and draw, while Jameson draws 2. I then pay 7 mana, putting 5 into the X of the Primordial Hydra, and pay 1 green to draw with the Lifecrafter's Bestiary. Eric casts a Luminarch Ascension in his main phase, and moves to combat. He swings Elesh Norn and Kalemne at Jameson, who once again blocks Kalemne with Avacyn, and takes 4 from Elesh Norn. Jameson targets me this turn, and I reveal a bunch of goodies from my hand. He then plays a Command Tower from his hand, and casts a Magister Sphinx, putting me to 10 life. He then puts the Greaves onto the Sphinx, and moves to combat. He swings enough to kill me, and the Magister Sphinx at Eric for 3. Moving to his second main phase, he transmutes Perplex to find Shimmermere and puts it to his hand. Eric draws, and Jameson draws 2 after shuffling. Eric then plays a Plains and casts Linvala the Preserver, gaining both 5 life and a 3/3 Angel token. This also triggers Kalemne's Experience ability, and Eric gains another Experience counter. Moving to combat, Eric swings Kalemne and Elesh Norn once more, and Jameson blocks Kalemne and takes 4 from Elesh Norn. Jameson can only target Eric with the Triplets ability and draws for turn. He then casts a Fabricate in his main phase to find a Mindslaver. Jameson then casts the Mindslaver and passes turn. Eric draws for turn, and Jameson draws 2. Eric realizes Jameson didn't attack and puts a counter on his Ascension. Eric then cycles the now useless Akroma's Vengeance, and Jameson decides not to draw. With nothing else, Eric passes turn. The Triplets target Eric, who reveals a Return to Dust from his cycled Vengeance. Jameson then plays a Seed of the Synod and cracks the Mindslaver to take Eric's next turn. Jameson then casts a Hamlet back Goliath and passes. This gives Eric's Ascension another counter. Eric draws for his turn that's controlled by Jameson, and Jameson draws 2. Eric reveals the Thought Vessel he drew, and Jameson then casts Return to Dust to exile Eric's own Ascension. Moving to combat, Jameson swings Elesh Norn, Linvala, and the Angel token at himself, and blocks with enough creatures to kill Elesh Norn while blocking the 2 other flyers. Jameson starts his turn and casts Eric's Thought Vessel just because. Jameson then brings out Sharoom, which brings back the Mindslaver, but decides to kill Eric in combat and swings everything at him, and we move on to the next game. Game review time. So, Eric went pretty hard on Brian from the get-go, cause Brian was playing his Azusa deck, and Eric knows what the deck can do. With very little effort, Brian was able to get out a Blightsteel Colossus, and without the Plat to Exile, I think that was going to dominate the game. I don't fault Brian for wanting to attack Eric as a result of being targeted so much, but I don't know if he did as much threat assessment as he should have. Jameson was sitting back and ramping up, and playing blue means a lot of control, which means that Brian probably would have had a harder time later on trying to kill him than he would have Eric. Jameson did a great job of using his land tax triggers, his Sen Triplets triggers, and just all around playing defensively until he was in a leading position to win. It didn't hurt that he was able to steal cards and ramp better than Eric was able to after the Ulamog trigger, and cast giant angels like Abyssin that made his board impossible to deal with. Fred, if you're watching this, I never want to play your Ghalta deck again. It just did not perform for me, and I wasn't able to even get Ghalta out that whole game. I drew so many forests, and even scryed away so many forests, it was disheartening. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.